The first sound that cut through the fog in my head wasn't the sterile beep of a hospital monitor, but the goddamn ping of an email notification on my phone. I'd collapsed in my office at Northwood Middle School, right after a brutal faculty meeting. Now, hours later, staring at the ceiling of an ICU, I fumbled for the phone. An email from Brenda, my wife of 25 years. The subject, moving on. The body was short, sharp, and twisted the knife. Michael, this school district and your obsession with it finally broke you. I'm taking what's ours before it's all eaten up by your medical bills. Think of it as hazard pay for the years I've put up with you, prioritizing everyone else over me. Our joint savings, worth 478.33, are now in my sole possession. Just like that. 2.5 decades gone. The emergency fund, our retirement nest egg. I should have screamed, cried, something. Instead, a chilling numbness spread through me. My fingers, clumsy from the stroke's aftermath, managed to tap out a single, absurd reply, a thumbs up emoji. Then I closed my eyes, the sterile scent of antiseptic suddenly suffocating. The next day, the doctor said I was lucky the stroke wasn't more severe, but recovery would be long. He asked if someone was picking me up. Yes. I lied. That evening I called my younger brother Dave. Need a place to stay, Dave. And don't tell Brenda you've heard from me. He didn't hesitate. My guest room's ready. What did she do? She knows I'm alive, I said, my voice raspy. She just doesn't know I'm not going home. Looking back, the warning signs were there, blinking like faulty fluorescent lights in a neglected hallway. Brenda's interest in my work, once a source of connection, had dwindled to curt nods. She stopped asking about the school budget, nightmares, or the latest PTA drama. Then came the new, frequent, girls' nights out, with friends I'd never met, hushed phone calls that ended abruptly when I walked into the room, and her sudden obsession with her phone's privacy settings. I'd been too buried in work, too stressed by the demands of being a principal, to see the pattern. Years ago, after a colleague's messy divorce where his assets were unfairly split, I'd refinanced our home solely in my name. My credit was stronger, Brenda was working part-time at the local library, and had always deferred financial decisions to me. Too complicated. She'd waved dismissively. I'd also updated my will and established a durable power of attorney, naming Dave, not Brenda, after seeing another friend's family struggle when he was incapacitated. At the time, it felt like sensible, boring paperwork. Now, it felt like a lifeline I hadn't realized I was throwing myself. I even remembered one particular parent-teacher conference. Night I came home exhausted, hoping for some connection, and she barely looked up from her tablet, just a mumbled, "Oh, you're home." It stung, but I chalked it up to a bad day. We met at a university fundraiser. I was a history teacher then, full of passion, and she was a librarian intern, bright and witty. We married a year later. I was 27, she was 25. Young, idealistic, genuinely in love. We built a life, shared dreams. Her family was more affluent, always hinting I could do better than public education. Mine were working class, valuing stability and community service, proud of my career. For years, these differences were just part of our tapestry. We navigated job changes, my rise to vice principal, then principal, and her contentment with part-time library work. Our home was filled with books, laughter, and the scent of her baking. We had season tickets to the local theater. Simple joys. But slowly, imperceptibly at first, the distance grew. My long hours as principal, the endless meetings, the stress I brought home, it wore on us. Conversations shortened. Shared hobbies faded. Her complaints about my thankless job became more frequent. She'd sigh when my phone rang with another school emergency. "Don't they ever leave you alone, Michael?" she'd ask, a hint of resentment in her voice. The laughter thinned. One evening, about a year before my stroke, she announced she was joining an investment club. "Just something for me," she'd said. I encouraged it, thinking a new interest would be good for her. I realize now that was probably the first concrete step in her plan. That was a turning point I'd completely missed, distracted by a particularly challenging IP review season at school. The email was just the final, brutal confirmation of a death I hadn't wanted to see. At Dave's, the guest room was small but peaceful. He's a building contractor, a no-nonsense guy, divorced twice. He knew betrayal. He just let me be, bringing food I barely touched. The numbness was wearing off, replaced by a cold, hard anger. I started thinking. Brenda's email mentioned money, but the bulk of those savings came from my salary, diligently saved over decades. I remembered an old shared cloud account we barely used. With shaking hands, I logged in. Buried in a folder named MISC were recent additions. Copies of bank statements from an account I didn't recognize, in her name only, showing substantial transfers from our joint account over the past 6 months. And then, a call from Mrs. Peterson, the well-meaning but incredibly gossipy PTA president. "Michael, dear, just calling to see how you are. Such a shock." You know, it's funny. I saw Brenda at the Cozy Corner Cafe last week with Gary Sullivan, the PE teacher. They look quite chummy. I almost mentioned it in the PTA newsletter gossip column, but thought better of it. Gary Sullivan. Young, flashy, always a bit too slick. My stomach churned. This wasn't just an impulse. This was calculated. Dave found me staring blankly at my laptop. What's up? I told him about the secret account, about Gary. That slimeball, Dave muttered. His daughter, Chloe, my niece, was home from college, studying computer science with a minor in cybersecurity. Uncle Mike, she said gently, let me take a look at that cloud account. Maybe there's more. She was brilliant. Within an hour, she'd recovered deleted files Brenda must have thought were gone forever. Spreadsheets. Detailed spreadsheets, outlining a plan to divest our joint assets. And worse, communications between Brenda and Gary, discussing their future, investments in an offshore property scheme, and even a scanned itinerary for two to Costa Rica, booked under different names. They weren't just stealing, they were planning to flee. Dave just put a hand on my shoulder. We fight this, Mike. The bank confirmed the massive withdrawal while I was medically certified as incapacitated. It's a joint account, Mr. Donovan, the branch manager said, apologetic but firm. Legally, she had access. But the timing is highly irregular. I saw the pity in her eyes. It fueled my resolve. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about the deliberate, cruel dismantling of my life by the two people I'd trusted within my own school community. The initial shock had morphed into a steely determination. Brenda and Gary thought I was broken, finished. They underestimated me. The next day, I called Ellie Hayes, a lawyer Dave knew. She specialized in complex, high-asset divorces, particularly those involving financial fraud. Her reputation was that of a shark, but with Dave's referral, I hoped for empathy too. Ellie listened patiently in her quiet, organized office, reviewing the documents Chloe had printed, the email, the secret bank statements, the Costa Rica itinerary. Her expression hardened as she read. Michael, she said, her voice calm but firm, this isn't just a nasty divorce. This is financial exploitation, possibly conspiracy to defraud. The fact she did this while you were hospitalized after a stroke. Judges take a very dim view of that. And Mr. Sullivan's involvement makes it even more egregious. She outlined a strategy file for divorce immediately. Petition for an emergency court order to freeze all assets, including Brenda's secret account, and start discovery to uncover the full extent of their scheme. You're refinancing the house solely in your name, and the power of attorney to Dave were strokes of genius, unintended as they may have been. Then Chloe, meanwhile, did some more digging with the breadcrumbs from the deleted files. She found online forum posts from Gary under a pseudonym, bragging about an older woman, benefactor, and a foolproof overseas investment. He even posted vague details that matched the property scheme Brenda's spreadsheets mentioned. Ellie was thrilled. This is gold, Michael. It shows intent and premeditation. Sullivan is more than just a toy, he's a co-conspirator. We found out the investment was a known scam. They weren't just stealing from me, Gary was likely duping Brenda too. The layers of deceit were astounding. I felt sick, but also a grim sense of purpose. My world had been torched, but I wasn't going to stand by and watch the ashes blow away. Ellie filed the emergency motion. The court date was set for the following week. Brenda must have been served, because suddenly my phone was blowing up with her calls and texts. Michael, we need to talk. This is a misunderstanding. You're not thinking clearly after your illness. I ignored them all, forwarding everything to Ellie. Then, a text from Gary. Donovan, stay away from Brenda. You're harassing her. The audacity was breathtaking. He was trying to intimidate me. It only strengthened my resolve. The day of the hearing, I felt a strange calm. I wore my best suit, the one I saved for school board presentations. Brenda was there with a harried-looking lawyer. Gary was lurking in the hallway, trying to look supportive. Ellie was magnificent. She laid out the facts: my stroke, the timing of the withdrawal, the secret account, the Costa Rica tickets, Gary's online boasts. She presented my medical records showing I was incapacitated. When Brenda's lawyer tried to argue I was emotionally distant, and Brenda acted out of desperation and fear, the judge, a stern-faced woman, wasn't buying it. Counselor, the judge said, her voice dripping ice, your client emptied a joint account while her husband was fighting for his life. She then booked international travel with another man, who appears to be her accomplice. Desperation looks different from this bench. The judge granted Ellie's motion. All known assets, including Brenda's secret account and anything traceable to Gary from those funds, were frozen. Brenda's face was a mask of disbelief and fury. Gary had vanished from the hallway. As we left, Brenda tried to approach me. Michael, please. I walked past her without a word. The full truth emerged during discovery. Brenda and Gary had been siphoning money for over a year, not just from our savings, but but also running up debt on joint credit cards for their investments and travel. Gary had convinced Brenda he was an investment guru. The Costa Rica plan was their escape hatch once they'd bled me dry. The legal battle was swift after that. Faced with overwhelming evidence of fraud and conspiracy, Brenda's lawyer advised her to settle. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. I got the house, my pension, and 75% of the recovered assets. Brenda got her personal belongings, the debt she'd accrued with Gary, and a severely diminished share. Gary, facing potential criminal charges Ellie had hinted at, disappeared completely, reportedly leaving a trail of other jilted investors. My name was cleared with the school district, which was incredibly supportive once the facts came out. My disability insurance from them kicked in, covering my salary while I recovered. I sold the house 6 months later. Too many ghosts. I bought a smaller, manageable townhouse near Dave and Chloe. The proceeds from the sale, combined with what was recovered, were more than enough. My health improved slowly. The doctors said the stroke was a massive wake-up call. I couldn't go back to the high-stress principal job. Instead, I took a consultant role with the district, mentoring new principals, sharing my experience. Fewer hours, less stress, still fulfilling. It felt like a fresh start. One of the first things I did with the settlement money was to set up a college fund for Chloe. Her sharp mind and digital skills had been pivotal. "You're going to do great things, kid," I told her. Helping her felt like reclaiming a piece of my own future, investing in something good and true. I found a quiet joy in simple things: coffee with Dave, helping Chloe with her coding projects, even attending the occasional low-stakes PTA meeting at a local elementary school as a community volunteer. There are days when a flicker of the old anger or sadness returns, but it passes quickly. I learned that trust, once shattered, is nearly impossible to rebuild with the same person, but new trust can grow in other relationships. Brenda's betrayal was a devastating blow, but it also forced me to re-evaluate my life to see who my real support system was. Sometimes, the life you're forced to rebuild is stronger, more authentic than the one you lost. I'm still here. And for the first time in a long, long time, I feel a sense of peace. It's not the life I planned, but it's mine.